Okay, welcome to Week 5 Purdue football. The Boilermakers will open Big Ten play this weekend, hosting the Iowa Hawkeyes at noon at Ross Stadium. The game is homecoming and will be broadcast live on the Big Ten Network. Go ahead and get an opening statement from Coach Hazell, and then we'll go to questions on the phone line.
Well, a real quick recap on the Southern Illinois game. I thought our guys did a good job of really executing on both sides of the ball. Came out with a lot of energy and did what we had to do early in the game to really get ahead of that situation. Coming off of the Notre Dame game, you were always worried about a drop-off of the intensity level, but there wasn't when we came out of the locker room. I thought our guys were starting to figure out how to do things the proper way. Obviously, there's a lot of areas of improvement that we can work on, that we need to get better at, but really pleased with that win. If you take a look forward at Iowa, you know, it's a team that's been well coached for years and years and years. I have a lot of admiration for their staff and how they do things there. They don't do a whole lot of different things, but they want you to beat yourself. And they're not flashy. They're going to line up where you know they're going to line up. They're going to run the ball where you know they're going to run the ball. They're going to play great special teams. So we're looking forward to getting back to work today on the field and having a great football game on Saturday.
Okay, we'll open it up for questions from the phone callers. Pete, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, hey, Pete, Darrell, I guess as you look at Iowa, are you prepared for two quarterbacks?
Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do at quarterback situation. They played them both, and they both look very similar as you watch the tape. They wear 15 and 16, but they throw it kind of the same. They make the same decisions. I think we just got to go prepare for one of them, whichever one that is, and they're very similar. So I think there's not a huge difference. It's not like you're preparing for a running guy or just a drop back guy. I think they're very similar in their actions.
And when you look at your running back, does Keontae Green move up the last little bit based on his performance?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more of Keontae coming out this Saturday. Going to start Akeem Hunt and play Keontae as well as Raheem at some point in time. But he did a nice job for us. Came in there, gave us a lot of energy. He's playing physical, and I think his progress has really shown in the last couple of weeks.
And then the decision to start Akeem, what's the factor there?
Well, I think we just got to get the ball in his hands a little bit more. I just think he needs a few more touches, and I think the touches that he's had, he's been very productive. You know, obviously the one fumble at Notre Dame hurt us, but other than that, he's really run hard with the football.
And then your improved pass rush, what is the key to sustaining that the rest of the way?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question, Pete.
Oh, sure. Your improved pass rush, what's the key to sustaining that?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us down up front is we're able to play 7 people up there. And those guys are rotating in, 4 on the outside, 3 on the inside. And those guys are staying fresh, and they're able to get some penetration up the field.
Steps, and this would be, you know, obviously a homecoming victory against the Big Ten opponent. You shut off 1-0, above 500, 5 games into the season. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Just talk about the significance of how important this game is for your program.
Well, this is a big game for our program for a lot of different reasons. I think that being able to play a good opponent in our stadium and play well and try to get the desired outcome, I think that's huge for our program. I think we're playing with a lot more confidence right now, and they feel pretty good about themselves.
Along those lines, you know, Iowa has, well, they're 3-1, but you know they've really shown some moxie late in games. You know, Ball State could have beaten them, Pittsburgh could have beaten them, but they've kind of found a way late in the game. That's an intangible, but there's a knack for that, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. I think when you take a veteran team and a veteran coaching staff, they've been through those things so many times, so they don't panic. And they, even in the late games when they're down by a lot, they continue to run the football because that's what they do best. And I think that says a lot about their staff and who they are.
Conversely, you guys, I think in your last 90 minutes of second half football, you had 2 touchdowns. And I think you, at the end of the game last week, you said you got to find kind of a way to energize the offense. In watching film and some of the things that maybe you have seen, can you pinpoint anything as to why maybe you're offense has been pretty good in the first half, but maybe spun its wheels a little bit in the second half?
Well, I think if you look at last week's games, we had offensively 2 possessions in the third quarter. And we dropped the ball and we fumbled the ball. And so there was a lack of execution in that third quarter. We got to execute better coming out of the locker room in the second half. I think that's what it comes down to. And it's nothing more than guys making those plays that we need to have made. Same thing happened in the Notre Dame game. We're driving, hit a screen early, and then a couple of first downs, and then we kind of stubbed our toe in that first series in the second half.
I would assume as a staff it is a point of focus this week to get maybe come out of that locker room a little bit more successful.
Watch, can you please speak into the microphone?
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to make it too loud. To be more successful coming out of the locker room, point of emphasis going into this week, one of the things you'll talk about a lot.
Yeah, I talked about it to the team on Sunday. I talked to the team about it after the game on Saturday, and then I talked again on Sunday. And we'll revisit that again today, and we have something special on the practice field. It's a little bit different, potentially help with that situation. And I don't want to blow it way out of proportion because it's about execution. It's not about anything other than execution. But we definitely need to address that issue.
And then the last thing along those lines, you talked about, Iowa can eat up big chunks of clock if they get, that running game going. You're going to have to be efficient, right? Because you maybe won't get as many possessions as you would against a team that's going to throw it 75 times.
Oh, absolutely. I think you're dead on when you say it's about being precise with those possessions that you have. And I think you have to be very efficient. But the big thing for this football game is you can't turn it over because you'll be in the game at the end if you don't. So we have to make sure we're smart and making good decisions as we call plays offensively and not going too crazy.
Break down Iowa's offense for me if you could.
Well, the last 2 weeks, they buttoned it down. They went to 2 tight end sets, 2 back sets, and they're running zone. They're going to run lead zone, they're going to run split zone, they're going to run zone with 1 back, and they're going to play action passes. So I was watching the film, I was thinking, man, I'm looking at when I was back in Army, because they're going to throw it 8 to 10 times a game, but those throws that they make are going to be down the field throws, and they're waiting for you to have poor eye discipline so they can hit those guys open, wide open, off those play action passes. So we have to do a great job of creating penetration defensively, and then making sure we have great eye discipline in the back end.
I think the last 2 opponents have averaged 3.5 yards a carry against your defense. The first 2 averaged almost 5. Where are you trending upward in terms of run defense?
Well, I think our up front play by the 7 guys up front are doing a great job. One, eliminate those gaps, but also you're seeing number 10 and number 35 come downhill and really run through those open alleys. And if we can continue to play physical with those Jean and Ryan and Vogel and those 2 ends, Jelani and Ryan, keep knocking people back, it allows those linebackers to run free, makes some open tackles.
What about Iowa's defense? What do you expect to see from them?
Well, they're a Navy coverage team, and their whole principle is about coverage. It's not about the front. It's about taking guys out of the box and playing coverage so you can't hit those big passes. And then they rally to the ball. They're going to have 2 low safeties. They're going to come downhill, and we're going to have to do some things to be able to try to exploit those things.
Do you feel overall like your team, from a line of scrimmage perspective on both sides of the ball, is in a pretty good place right now going into Big Ten play to be able to stack up against the sort of styles of play you'll see from here on out?
Well, I think we're much better. I think we're improving by the day, by the minute, and we need to keep getting better. But I think we're playing much better team defense, team offensive line play. I think that's where we're making the strides that you can see week in and week out.
Just one other thing I want to ask you about. I think your average touchdown drive this year is 44 yards. Is that more a credit to the offense for taking advantage of opportunities, or more credit to the defense and special teams for putting you in those situations?
Well, I think we always talk about playing off of each other, and defense creating turnovers and offense being opportunistic with those turnovers. And I think that's all about winning football. And if we can continue to do that, we'll be in good shape.
You've been talking about the defense. After the SIU game, Sean Robinson spoke about the closeness of the defense. Does the defense seem to be playing with a renewed passion for their teammates?
Oh, I think so. I think those guys meet all the time together now, and they understand how important it is to play for one another, and their assignment, how important that assignment is within the scheme of the defense. So I think they are finally starting to learn where their help is coming from.
What are your thoughts on Keontae's performance from the weekend, and how does he fit into the game plan as the team moves forward?
Keontae did a great job. Came in and ran the ball hard for us, broke some tackles, gave us a little bit of energy in that last drive or 2 drives that we needed some to be able to run the football and take the time off the clock. And he'll have a big role for us this Saturday.
What's Danny Etling's health like, and what is his status for this week's game?
Danny was a little bit sore yesterday. Probably couldn't have run yesterday, but he said he feels a lot better today. So we'll find out at practice time how well he's dropping back and moving around on the end. He got stepped on and rolled it at the same time.
One more. What are the biggest concerns this Iowa team presents that you haven't really had time to prep for in this season?
Well, obviously they're good up front, offensive line-wise. They run the ball, and they're going to run the ball no matter what the situation is. We have to do a good job of stopping the run. So that's always the concern when you play a good Iowa football team.
Hi. When you're now done with non-conference play, how would you evaluate then your team right now going into the Big Ten?
Well, I think we're improving. Obviously, you stuck your toe a little bit a couple of weeks ago, but I think we're improving in every phase, and that's the key. And as long as we can continue to get better in every element, I think that will suit us well as we continue to move forward.
What do you like about your team right now?
The closeness. These guys enjoy being around each other. They're hungry still, and I think they're understanding what's starting to win football games. The lack of turnovers and the lack of penalties. And they're starting to become a little bit smarter each and every week.
You said initially there are a lot of areas to improve in. Can you name a couple maybe that are topping your priority list now?
Well, I still think you have to eliminate all those penalties if you can. I'm not sure if that's possible or not, but I will certainly work that way. But also, I think there's situations where we need to continue to make plays, and that's putting yourself in the right position and being able to make those plays. And the game's 25-3 or 25-0. We have a chance to go for a pick 6. Those are plays that put the game out of reach right now. And we got to make those plays.
I don't know if you've looked at it overall, kind of, but are you looking at how you feel like you stack up in the West Division now, just because you get that opponent and you're starting that kind of play right now?
No, not at all. You look at the opponents by who they are. That's on the schedule, and that's all you do. You say who's your next opponent, and you break down the film and say what are the best ways to attack these people in 3 phases, and you go forward. And that's all you look at.
Why do you think Ryan Watson has had success?
I think a lot has to do with him being able to come off the bench fresh, and he's quick off the ball. He plays with a great pad level, and he's relentless.
Were those qualities you saw in him last season?
I can't say that I did. I think he's definitely taken a huge step between last season and this season. And he's one of those guys that walks in to the staff room or the meeting room with a big old smile on his face. He just loves to get better.
Was it a conversation that you had or Greg had or somebody had with him after last year that said, okay, we need you to, because I know you've had that with a couple other guys.
I think a lot of times what naturally happens when you have guys graduate from the room or leave that room, that naturally they're going to step up. And I think that's what happened to Ryan.
This is your selfie helmet game week. I don't know if we've asked you, what do you think of that idea?
I think it's a great idea. It's different, it's cutting edge. I thought the marketing people did a good job of putting it out there and making sure that we could get some people's faces on our helmets, and so I'm anxious to see it.
What jerseys are you wearing with it? What's the rest of it?
Well, I think we're gold, black, gold.
Is your face on the helmet?
My face is not on the helmet.
Well, I mean, what's your message to, you have a lot of guys that haven't played in the Big Ten, haven't played the style, what they're going to face the next 8 weeks. or the 8 games. Just what's your message to them? How do you prepare them for what they're going to come against?
Well, it's a different level of football, and that's the message that you have to bring to the team. And it's about physical football play and being able to exchange blows for 4 quarters and then find a way to win the game at the end of the game. And that's what the Big Ten football is all about.
And just from a physical standpoint, just how do you feel like you're much more prepared for what you'll see with this group of players as opposed to what happened last year?
Yes.
Thank you. In trying to stop the run, you've had success the last 2 weeks using a lot of 5 defensive backs and not as much as your base defense. How do you attack this week and the rest of the Big Ten season, knowing what you're going to see?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. We've been playing so much quarter package with those 5 defensive backs, 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, where you get better players, better athletes on the field. Now you got to say, okay, where do you sacrifice? Do you get that extra big guy in by taking another linebacker, putting him in the game, taking the secondary guy out? So there's going to be a blend of both base personnel as well as quarter personnel this week, and making sure we're in the right package is going to be key for us.
Iowa offensive line, obviously pretty good, but the left tackle, Brandon Sheriff, I just kind of evaluate his play and how much he's an anchor for them.
He's really special. I mean, he's a guy he's fast, he's quick, he's powerful, he bends, and you can tell he's a really smart football player, how he blocks guys. Just knows how to get it done. So he's a really good football player.
You know, it was 10 months ago Iowa was here in your home stadium, and they won the game by 20-some points. In the big picture of things, I mean, can you look at where you're at from a measuring standpoint, just 10 months later, of how you stack up against Iowa, and then looking ahead to Illinois next week?
It was very interesting. I went back yesterday, and as you go through all your film study, you watch last year's game. And, we weren't very good last year, and just watching that game. And we're a lot better right now as a football team than where we were 10 months ago.
But I mean, does it have to show up on Saturday?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it always has to show up on Saturday, and it will show up on Saturday.
In evaluating your offensive line in the last couple of days, did you find out anything about who you like better where and what changes you might make on Saturday?
We're going to start the same way we started last Saturday in terms of the tackle rotation. Jordan Roos played his best game since he's been in the Boilermaker outfit. Kugler played extremely well. And, for the first time this week being out there, I thought he did a nice job. I really did. Obviously, there's a lot of technical things that he can improve upon, but I thought he did a good job and held up well. Sermon played exceptionally well last year. So those 3 guys rated out, I believe, winning performances. But we need to keep getting better at those positions across the board.
Do you foresee yourself using a similar percentage, that's right, of snaps between the 3 tackles sort of going forward do you want to be able to have just 5, or what do you think?
Well, last week we ran 72 offensive gradable plays. I think they all were 56 to 61 plays in terms of those guys getting the reps. So it's pretty balanced, and if they continue to play at the same level, which hopefully gets better, I have no problems, no issues with a 3-man rotation at the tackle spot. Now, if one guy all of a sudden excels and he's clearing above the best guy, then I think you go with that guy and then rotate the other 2 guys.
Wash was asking you earlier about coming out in the second half. Change anything routine-wise on Saturdays, or do you feel like you're not really to that point yet?
No, I don't think we're to that point. I think he's got to constantly deliver the message that we have to be a team that executes in the 3rd quarter. And that'll be one of the keys to this victory is how you're going to perform in the 3rd quarter. We're going to do something, like I said earlier today, differently on the practice field. We're going to take a little break and have the coaches talk to them as if it was halftime, and then come out and respond after that.
Is Danny Anthrop turning into a pretty good big play receiver for you guys?
Well, I'd say so. I mean, the kid's done a great job for us, and we just love his intensity level, we love his productivity. He flies around the field, throws his body around. He plays with his heart outside of his body all the time, and you just love his effort. And if he can continue to get better and make those plays for us, that's going to help us.
When you look at him, he doesn't necessarily look like a home run threat necessarily. He's not super big, he's not real tall, but what is it, his quickness, is something about him that has allowed him to get open down the field?
Well, he does have top end speed. He's got enough quickness when he's got off coverage to get himself open. He obviously still has to work against press coverage, but he can accelerate off the catch. That's where probably his biggest attribute. I mean, he called the one third down hook route, and his first 2 steps out of the ground, he exploded out of the cut.
Your kick coverage team has not been the best here the last couple of weeks, and it doesn't rank very well nationally. What are you seeing anything from a technique point of view that is causing you to have some issues there?
Yeah, that's one of the areas of improvement we need to get better very quickly. We're not kicking the ball well. That's where it starts. We're not kicking the ball very well. But also, we've been out of our lanes and missed a tackle. If you miss a tackle, it's just like playing with one less guy on kickoff coverage, because there's usually one line of defense, and then you have your 3 safety, your kicker and your 2 other guys as safety. So you might as well take a guy off the field if you don't, if you miss a tackle. So we got to do a much better job. We talked about doing some things this morning in our kick meeting, so we've made a couple of adjustments.
McDougal seems like he's been a little up and down. I mean, the wind has played a factor in him sometimes too, but at times it looks like he has no issue at all getting into the end zone. And other times it looks like he does have an issue. Is that sort of what you're saying too?
That's very accurate. It's very accurate. I mean, when he's kicking with the wind, he looks relaxed and drives the ball out of the end zone. When he's kicking against the wind, he tightens up and thinks he has to drive the ball. All of a sudden, the ball squibs on the ground. That first kick was a squib kick. It was not supposed to be. And so he needs to relax and swing through the ball, regardless of how the weather conditions are.
You look at Ryan Russell's statistics, a sack and 1 tackle for loss, and do you feel like he's playing maybe better than what that has shown, or sort of evaluate him through the first third of the season?
He definitely is playing better than his numbers are showing. You see, he's getting a lot of push up the field. I went in to see Ryan last week, I think it was Thursday, and gave him a little hint to how to get to the quarterback just maybe a hair quicker. Hopefully he can use that as we go forward, but I think he's playing pretty well. I mean, obviously you like his numbers to be higher, but I think those are the things will happen as we move through the season. Now this week, with those running the balls, he's not going to have those big numbers. He's not going to have sack numbers, and TFL level numbers will be hard to get this week, but he's playing pretty well right now.
Good.
On the running backs, when you look at, Hunt had a huge fumble against Notre Dame and he stayed in. Mostert has had 2 fumbles this season. Is it the amount of fumbles? Is it something else that you're looking at?
We're just looking at total productivity from that position. That's what we want to get better at. And they all know that. I've talked to most of them individually about we need to get a little bit more fire in our belly in that room and get more productivity out of that group.
Over the first couple of weeks, you talked about the vertical passing game and take the next step. Do you see the strides there that you guys are getting better at that?
I thought so last week for sure. I thought we pushed the ball down the field. We made some plays. We obviously missed the 1 touchdown to D'Angelo, but I thought we pushed the ball down the field. We're going to have to do that more and more to keep people off of us. That second out cut we threw or called to Yancey on our sideline, I don't know if you remember or not, they were sitting on the route. The corner squad never budged an inch. So that's why you have to push the ball down the field to get people backed off on you. So we'll continue to do that. We've got to make sure we pick and choose our times this weekend so we don't put our tackles in jeopardy. But we'll continue to throw the ball down the field to get those chunk plays.
And then D'Angelo's had a couple good weeks back-to-back with Notre Dame and then SIU. Do you feel like he's getting back into the rhythm that he was in last year?
Yeah, but I still want him to play at a higher level. He's got to play more effective in the passing game, but also more aggressive in the run game. He missed a block on the flag they picked up, Danny Anthrop's call, they called it for pass interference, which was not a call. They made the right call. But we got to make a block there. It's a touchdown. He makes the block. So I want him to play at a higher level in the run game as well as the passing game.
And with Anthrop, just that one touchdown gets called back and then he falls over on the other one. Did you say anything to him on the play where he just stumbles and falls down and it could have been another touchdown?
Yeah, I said that's a great play. The wind picked that ball. You can see it on the film. The wind picked the ball up and started fading to the right. He adjusted to the ball. I said that was a great play by him. So, yeah.
And with him, do you notice him sticking his nose in there? I know against Notre Dame, he gets into it with the defensive tackle and actually falls over in the end zone. I don't know if you see it on film, but kind of a flop, Vlade Divac flop there. But he's not afraid to stick his nose in there. Just is that what you've seen from him so far?
Has no regard for his body, and hopefully he can last the season. But he will go in, he'll crack an end, he'll crack a safety, and really physical in the run game, and that's what you love about the kid.
Are you pleasantly surprised with the numbers he's put up so far, or are those numbers expected?
I have no idea what his numbers are, but he's being productive.
Anything else for Coach? Appreciate your time, Coach.
All right.